There are prayers meant to be whispered, prayers meant to be sung, and prayers meant to be repeated until the repetition itself becomes sacred. But somewhere in the folds of forgotten scripture lies a different kind, a prayer that cannot be spoken twice, not because it is forbidden, not because it is cursed, but because the moment you say it, it slips away, and so does what you traded for it. They call it the prayer with no echo. Its origins are not found in any known holy text, no chapter, no verse, only fragments, footnotes scribbled in margins, oral traditions passed between mystics who forget why they're afraid, and dreams described with such precision that they can't be inventions. The only pattern is this: a page visible for a single hour, a voice, not your own, that finishes your sentence. And then, silence. Profound, irreversible silence. You do not remember what you asked for. You do not remember what was given, but something changes. A scar disappears. A debt is gone. A face you loved no longer visits your memories. And you can't remember if you lost them or gave them away. In certain monastic orders, it is whispered that this prayer was never meant for humanity, that it was a message left behind for angels in exile, a divine failsafe. One chance to reroute destiny, one sentence to rewrite the unwritable, at a price no one can weigh, because the scales are wiped clean the moment the wish is granted. And yet, people seek it, because there are those who would rather lose the memory of what they loved than live with the pain of knowing it's gone. This is not a ritual. It is not a transaction. It is a vanishing point, a fold in language, time, and self. And once you speak the words, they're no longer yours. Neither is what you gave up. Welcome to Tales from the Forbidden Library. If this story leaves a strange emptiness in you, it may not be the first time you've heard it. It was first mentioned in the writings of a monk named Aurelio, who lived in a small mountain monastery in the Pyrenees during the 15th century. His journals were plain, the usual records of weather, harvest, daily prayers. But on one page, dated midwinter, the handwriting changed. The lines were slanted, hurried, and strange. He claimed a manuscript had appeared in the monastery library, one no one remembered acquiring, written in a language no one recognized, on paper that seemed to hum when touched. The manuscript was only visible, he said, once a year. It would appear at the 13th hour, a time that doesn't exist on the clock, but somehow passes anyway. According to his account, the library would grow cold, the candles would dim, and the manuscript would be there, resting on the altar, as if it had never left. It contained one page, just one. And on that page, a passage of shifting script that looked different to each person who saw it. Some monks described it as a spiral of gold symbols that moved when read. Others said it appeared blank until they blinked, then a single sentence hovered in their vision like light left behind after staring at the sun. No one could copy it. No one could describe it clearly. But every monk who read it reported the same compulsion, to speak it aloud. And every one of them, afterward, forgot what the words had been. The prayer was unlike anything else in their order. It didn't invoke God or saints or spirits. It didn't ask for protection. It simply was a phrase with no grammar, no title, no destination. A release, an unraveling. Aurelio believed it was older than the church itself. Not heretical, but pre-doctrinal. A script meant for something that once lived above fate or outside it. After the prayer was spoken, something always changed. One monk, who had suffered chronic seizures for 20 years, never convulsed again. Another, who had mourned his brother every day since childhood, suddenly could not recall ever having a sibling. Their faces didn't twist in horror. There was no shock, just a subtle vacancy, like a room that had been emptied without disturbing the dust. Aurelio called it la oración sin eco, the prayer without echo, and he warned that even writing about it too often made his thoughts foggy. He forgot meals, he forgot hymns, and eventually he forgot the names of the other monks. His final journal entry was brief, written in a childlike hand. It knows when you remember. That's why it waits for you to forget. The manuscript has never been officially recovered, but stories of it reappear every few decades, always in secluded chapels, abandoned libraries, or private homes where the clocks strike 13. And each time, someone is left changed. Not visibly, not dramatically. Just enough that when they close their eyes at night, they feel lighter and lonelier and can't explain why. In the hills of southern Poland, tucked behind a veil of pines and fog, stood the monastery of St. Jovan. It wasn't known for grandeur or relics. It had no saints attributed to it, no relics to display, and no pilgrims clamoring at its gates. Yet, for centuries, people traveled there. Not in crowds, not in caravans, but alone. Quietly, as if drawn by a whisper they couldn't quite remember hearing. When questioned, the monks offered no explanations. In fact, most couldn't explain much at all. The records were immaculate. Dates, births, deaths, shipments of flour and wax, all catalogued with near obsessive precision. But there was a strange emptiness in their words. When asked why people came, they would say things like healing or peace, but with uncertainty. Not like they believed it, more like they were reciting something they'd been told long ago. In the 1800s, a French historian named Étienne Malraux visited the monastery to research forgotten orders of the Catholic Church. He noted that the monks seemed unusually lucid in conversation, present, sharp, intelligent, until the topic shifted to prayer. Then their eyes would glaze over, not in reverence, but in confusion. They would pause mid-sentence, as if reaching for a word that didn't exist. Malraux documented this behavior in his journal with growing unease. He stayed for 3 weeks. During his stay, he suffered from vivid dreams of voices whispering in his native tongue, not in his ears, but from somewhere inside his chest. He began misplacing his notebooks. One morning, he found pages missing from his journal, with no signs of forced entry. The monks claimed not to know anything, but one elder, the abbot, pulled him aside and said something strange. "You must be careful what you ask for here. Sometimes the monastery answers before you do." Intrigued, Malraux began comparing visitor logs. To his astonishment, he discovered that nearly half of those who visited returned again the following year, but none of them remembered having been there before. They had left their names, even detailed notes in the guest records. Yet upon return, when asked, they insisted it was their first visit. One woman even wept in frustration, claiming she'd never left France before, despite her handwriting being on the pages. That was when Malraux found it, the mention of a prayer at the 13th hour, scribbled in the margins of a tattered devotional book. It simply said, "Spoken once, remembered never, but its echo lives here." He scoured the grounds, but found no secret chapel, no hidden altar. Yet on his final night, while pacing the cloister gardens, he felt a sharp, metallic chill pass through him, not cold, but hollow, as if something had been scooped out of him mid-step. He rushed back to his quarters, only to find his suitcase already packed, his journal closed and zipped away. He returned to France the next day, unsure why he'd cut his trip short. Years later, his son read through his belongings and found only one page left in the journal, blank, except for a single sentence in a trembling hand. "I know I asked for something. I just hope it was worth it." Today, the monastery of St. Jovan still stands. The monks are still there, smiling and quiet. The guest book still fills with names. But ask them what the visitors pray for, or what they themselves ask each evening, and the answers will be the same. "I don't remember, but I feel better now." They say the prayer does not feel like speaking. It feels like being spoken through. Testimonies from those who have allegedly encountered the prayer, often written in anonymous letters or whispered in dying confessions, describe a voice that emerges not from the throat, but from the bones. A trembling vibration that bypasses the vocal cords entirely. Some report a sensation in their jaw or chest, like pressure pushing outward, not from breath, but from something deeper, ancient, rehearsed, and waiting. In each case, it begins the same way, a brief vision or hallucination or dream, depending on whom you ask. A page with no book, floating, flickering, covered in letters that are familiar, yet unreadable. One man described it as seeing grammar I hadn't learned yet. Another claimed the script rearranged itself every time he blinked, not randomly, but as if it was reading him in return. Then the voice comes, not in sound, not in language, but in knowing. The words are not heard, but suddenly realized. You don't remember saying them. You only remember that you said them, and that it was final. What follows is silence. A silence described by witnesses not as peaceful, but absolute. The kind of quiet that scrapes the inside of your ears. One priest described it as being buried in velvet. A nun claimed she forgot the names of her siblings within hours. A third man, a banker from Prague, claimed he awoke with a new wife in his bed, a child calling him father, and a company he didn't remember founding. He wasn't disturbed, only confused. His old life, gone. No photos, no messages. His former name erased from every document. And yet, something in him knew it was his doing. Perhaps the most terrifying testimony comes from a woman named Mireille, who claimed she never said the prayer herself, but was in the room when someone else did. Her husband, a devout spiritualist, had been obsessed with forgotten theologies. One night, he vanished from their home in Belgium and was found days later in a chapel ruins in Hungary, barefoot and smiling. He could not explain how he got there. He spoke only once after that. It wasn't meant for us. Then, for the rest of his life, he never again uttered a complete sentence. Not because of trauma or brain damage, the doctors found nothing wrong, but because Mireille claimed language itself had been taken from him. Not his ability to speak, but the reason to. He died with his eyes wide open, not in fear, in longing, as if something had been whispering to him for years, and he had simply forgotten how to respond. In the shadowed corridors of the Vatican's restricted archives, beyond the sealed codices and beneath layers of bureaucratic silence, exists a ledger not spoken of in any official record. A book bound in pale, almost translucent leather, with no title, no author, and no classification. Those who've seen it call it Liber Beneficiorum Occultorum, the Book of Hidden Blessings. The entries are not prayers, they are not miracles, they are simply outcomes, recorded by a hand that never signs its name. Each page describes a change, a child, once terminal, who awakens fully healed. A prisoner released by royal pardon, despite overwhelming evidence. A woman who survives falling 5 stories without a single broken bone. Yet beside each miracle is a note, short, chilling, and always the same structure. Memory loss, altered documents, one object missing. At first, these anomalies were dismissed as coincidences or clerical errors, but after centuries of cross-referencing, a darker pattern emerged. Each impossible gain, each unexplainable turn of fate, was linked to a specific location, time, and most importantly, a feeling described only as deep inner silence. One Jesuit priest, tasked with cataloging anomalous intercessions, noticed a strange phenomenon. Those who received the blessings often could not recall ever praying for them. In interviews, they seemed dazed when asked about the moment of transformation. Some cried without knowing why. Others smiled and whispered, "I must have done something right." But not one could describe what they had asked for. Worse still, many of these people had entire gaps in their personal histories. A decade forgotten, a first marriage erased, a sibling unrecognized in photos. Their lives, though seemingly blessed, were hollowed out in places, smoothed over like worn stone, as if time itself had been edited. There are reports of certain entries in the ledger glowing faintly under candlelight, particularly those recorded around equinoxes or solar eclipses. Scholars believe this is when the hour reoccurs, the same unknown moment when the prayer can be read and spoken. And then there is the final, most disturbing feature of the ledger. Every few decades, a page turns on its own. The next entry is blank, waiting, as if pre-written in reverse, starting with the outcome, ending with the price. But once the wish is made, both disappear. Only the result remains, and the lingering silence where memory used to be. If the prayer still exists, it isn't hiding. It's waiting. It doesn't call out or whisper or tempt. It simply appears in the quiet between hours, in the spaces where memory falters, where time folds inward like pages left unturned for too long. You won't know you've seen it. You won't know you've spoken it. But you will know something has shifted. A lightness, a loss, a wish you never made, coming true. That is the cruelest part of all. It gives you exactly what you need, not what you want, not what you deserve, but what some deeper part of you once longed for. The kind of longing so old, so buried, you forgot it ever lived in you. And it takes something in return, something equal, something fair, but something you would never have offered had you known, and you will never know. People chase miracles. They build temples around answered prayers, write songs for gods they believe intervened. But the prayer that can only be said once leaves no doctrine, no memory, no trace. You can't build a church around something you can't remember. You can't revere a mystery that leaves no echo. That is why it's never worshipped, only found, once. So if one day you awaken healed, wealthy, beloved, or mysteriously content, but feel something missing in your reflection, if your journals have gaps, if someone greets you with warmth and you don't know their name, if your dreams go silent at the edges, you may have already said it. And if you ever find yourself searching for the words again, you won't. Not because they're gone, but because they've already been given. And the silence you hear now, that's what you paid with.